Well, the Prime Minister has proposed a shake-up to the energy sector, allowing 2 renewable energy agencies to invest in low emissions technologies. I caught up with the CEO of the Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association, Andrew McConville, just a short time ago.
Look, I think it's very important, Peter. I mean, as the Prime Minister said, there are no such thing as good emissions or bad emissions. It's just emissions. And I think this investment will go a long way to helping Australia through the adoption of technology move more rapidly to meeting its Paris climate change emissions reduction targets. And for our industry, the oil and gas industry, we see that we have a really important role to play, adopting technology to help reduce emissions and coming in alongside and complementing renewables. So it's good news.
What do you make of some green groups coming out and actually criticising this ARENA funding for emissions technology?
Oh, look, Peter, I mean, I think it's time that we call out and get these folks to really show their stripes. It's if you're not going to support an investment of this size and magnitude, which is absolutely about getting the best available technology to do everything we can to reduce emissions as fast as we can, well, then where do you stand? You certainly don't stand for emissions reduction and you don't stand for all that comes with us moving forward to a lower carbon economy. So, I think it's time we probably call that out. And if you're anti-fossil fuels, well, hey, let's just stand up and say that. But we shouldn't be masquerading as something other than what it is, which is strong opposition to something which can help us reduce emissions more quickly and help us get to meeting our Paris targets, in the timeframes that we need to. So I think it's time to call a spade and call these folks out.
Andrew, how important is cleaner energy technology going forward?
Cleaner energy technology is incredibly important. What we want to be able to do is use the energy efficient tools that we have, like natural gas, but we do need to then adopt the best available technology to reduce the emissions from that. Now, natural gas has half the emissions of coal, but if we can continue to take emissions down in using natural gas as it complements renewables, well, that's great, because you have to remember that natural gas in the electricity generation sector is only about 30%. So it's also used for heating in the homes, it's used in manufacturing processes. So adopting technology like carbon capture and storage, supporting the adoption or the uptake of hydrogen, these things are really important and will ensure that we can continue to use very efficient fuel like natural gas alongside of renewables for decades to come. And for Australia, that's good news because we have substantial resources, and that means that governments can continue to also get royalties and taxes and all of the things that come with that, then invest in roads and schools and all those other things. So to me and to our industry, it's an incredibly important story, and it's a good story, and it's one really that all Australians should get behind.
Andrew, I know the Prime Minister was very strong on encouraging private investment in gas and oil reserves, but we see examples at the moment. I know Santos are having a lot of frustration at the moment with their latest project. How do we create a climate, an environment where investing in this sort of research and development is important and that we're able to get private investors involved?
Yeah, Peter, I think it's about focusing on the majority. I think these smaller groups can make a lot of noise about opposition to certain technologies or good stories like we've seen this week with the government's program around backing gas to help drive economic recovery, backing the CEFC and ARENA with the announcement today. And the vast majority of Australians, I think, are actually clever enough to understand that we want to use the resource base that we have to generate jobs, to generate incomes, to support the uptake of renewables. And I think we've just got to stick with it. And I think we don't want to get distracted by the noise and continue to make sure that we're investing in new technologies, continuing to make sure that we have good regulatory frameworks, good fiscal frameworks. These are the things that are going to make Australia attractive for investment. And we also have to recognise that capital is scarce, competition is fierce, and if we don't get those things right, then that money will go elsewhere. So we put a plan to the government just recently, which was very comprehensive in terms of the sorts of areas that the government can focus on in terms of fiscal reform, regulatory reform, environmental issues, ensuring an effective and functioning East Coast gas market. Stepping in, taking a holistic approach, these are the things that are going to attract investment into the sector and then allow us to up the pace, if you like, and get quicker towards those Paris targets, which we're all committed to.
And of course, in this post-COVID economic environment, a lot of people out of work, a lot of people struggling, a lot of businesses falling by the wayside. Cost of living pressures are going to be huge, and of course, electricity and power and energy is all part of that mix. How confident are you that we'll be able to keep a lid on power prices, gas prices, going forward, say over the next decade or so? Are you confident that we can keep them in reasonable shape?
Yeah, I am, Peter. I do think that we can keep prices in reasonable shape, and we do that by getting more supply into the market. That's the best answer we've got to continue to put downward pressure on prices. So, getting developments like Narrabri, lifting moratoriums in Victoria. The government's announcement this week supporting the development of the Beetaloo and the Galilee Basin, for example, where there are substantial resources. Getting that gas out of the ground, as the PM said this week, that's what's important. And and then allowing the huge uptake we've seen in renewables, which is a great thing to be complemented by the likes of natural gas to make sure that we've got that steady grid. These are the things that are actually going to deliver stable energy prices. So it is about supply. It's about not picking winners, if you like. All of these energy sources can go into putting downward pressure on prices. And you're right, in this environment, we need to make sure that manufacturing has a steady competitive supply of energy, of natural gas. Manufacturing employs 225,000 people. The oil and gas industry employs 80,000 people. These are big industries, and we need to make sure that they can continue, and we can only do that by getting more supply and being competitive. So I am confident that we can do it. But the sorts of initiatives that we've seen this week announced by the PM and Minister Taylor, these are very positive steps that can be taken to ensure that downward pressure on price and our ability to increase supply is maintained.